You are enough. You are capable. The problem is that you are supporting an identity. You are allowing an identity to live that does not support your true outcomes. And basically, I ran those frameworks. I ran that identity. I supported that identity and false beliefs in my life for so long until it nearly killed me at an early age.
What's going on, team? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Dieting from the Inside Out. If you're new here, welcome to the show. My name is Jared Hamilton, and I'm really excited that you're here. I have another amazing episode lined up for you that is just going to blow your mind, especially if you're into the deep stuff. But before we get into that, massive thank you to the sponsors of the show. Sponsor numero uno is Flex Pro Meals. You guys know I love my Flex Pros. Because here's the truth. The biggest thing with I think one of the keys to being massively successful in this wonderful world of weight loss is we have to make this game simple. We have to make it practical and doable. And if it's not, then it's no wonder we're struggling. It's no wonder we're failing, because so many people, like with most normal people like you and me, our lives are not fitness and weight loss. Our lives are normal people, and we're trying to sprinkle in where we can fit our goals in, right? So it's one of those things where if it's not convenient and practical, a lot of times we just don't do it, and it's just not going to work, which is where Flex Pro comes in. Because I don't know if you're anything like me, but my schedule is crazy. Like, yeah, there's some structure to it, but otherwise between travel, work, meetings, all this other crazy shit, and let alone, I don't have kids either. And my life is just like, schedule is crazy, let alone half of you guys are like single moms who are taking kids from soccer game to soccer game and doing all sorts of crazy stuff with work and overtime and school and the whole 9 yards. And a lot of times, like, yeah, it's easy to say, yeah, cook all my food at home and, prep all my meals. But in all practicality, that's just not always an option. It's not always going to be there. So having some meals on deck in your fridge that are going to be more affordable than going through a drive-through, more in line with your goals than a drive-through or popping into a gas station, or keeping you from binge eating later because you actually have lunch prepared for you instead of, oh shit, I forgot, I'll just power through lunch. I forgot to bring my meal or to bring my lunch and then binge eating at dinner. It just stops a lot of that stuff from happening. So Flex Pro makes that really simple and really easy because, like I said, they're more affordable than going through a drive-through. It's going to save you more time so you're not having to go to a drive-through or pop into gas stations, but they're also super in line with your goals, especially when it comes to keeping calories in check, protein in check, and making sure you actually enjoy these. They're absolutely fantastic. So if that's something that you're interested in or you're not opposed to looking into, definitely go hit the link below or go to flexpromeals.com. And if you are into saving money, use the code HamiltonTrained and it'll save you 20% at checkout, which is pretty legit. So then we have our sponsor number 2, which is First Form. I've been doing a bunch of trainings with First Form here lately. I just had them come into my staff meeting and basically do a big in-depth training on supplements and all that stuff with my coaching staff. But then they just came into the Fat Loss Simplified group, which you'll want to be part of if you're not already, and did an entire Q&A and intro to supplements for them. And the cool thing with First Form, guys, is not only are they my favorite when it comes to product quality and accuracy and culture and how they treat their people and all of that stuff, but they are like the first ones to tell you. The first thing they said on our training was, you don't need supplements. Supplements are not a replacement for whole foods. They are filling the gaps where you're not going to get whole foods in. Like if you're not hitting your 5 to 7 servings, 10 servings a day of fruits and vegetables, we might consider a multivitamin. If you're sucking at getting your protein intake in, we might consider level 1. If you suck at like snacks and you need some options you can just throw in your backpack or throw in your purse, we might look at some protein bars or some protein sticks or things like that. If your joints suck like mine, then we might look at something that's going to help with inflammation, right? It's that kind of stuff. It's not one of those things where we're replacing an entire thing of food and saying the supplement is the best end all be all. That's not how it works. So if you are taking stuff and you're really interested in leveling up that and making sure what you're taking is effective, is safe, and is actually the quality that you want and that you're looking for, so you're not just ordering the cheapest thing on Amazon and hoping it works, definitely check out the link below. And there's a free shipping link down there as well. You just click it and it'll auto-populate in your cart. But then if you aren't quite sure on where to start with supplements, that training is in Fat Loss Simplified if you want to go check that out. But also, I do have my YouTube video on like my my take on supplements, what I personally take, what clients take, that kind of thing. Because my thing is I just want to educate you. I just want you to be armed mentally going into these situations. So big thank you to First Form. Now let's get into today's episode of the podcast with our guest on this week. So I interviewed for a second time my friend Nick Ross. Now Nick is a good friend of mine. I look up to him a lot. He's a mentor of mine, and Nick is a killer when it comes to the mindset, the headspace, and the idea of remaking and reinventing yourself and changing your identity, which is why I wanted to have him back on the show. I can't remember what number off the top of my head, but Nick was actually recently on the show, and it was one of the most talked about episodes. It was amazing. I love that you guys are into this deeper stuff. It's why we talk about dieting from the inside out. It's like James Allen, the author from like the 1940s, says, we cannot go within and then live without. It's why dieting from the inside out is a thing. We're not talking about just the calories and workouts and work harder. Like, yeah, those are things. But the reason we're dieting from the inside out is because outer work, like nutrition, training, fitness stuff, without inner work, identity, inner child, relationship with your food, relationship with yourself, it doesn't work. Outer work without inner work doesn't work. So one of the biggest pieces that we work with clients on is their identity, because here's the truth. Your identity is, Nick is going to get into it plenty, but just to frame this right, your identity is one of the biggest reasons for sabotage. If you struggle with sabotage, if you struggle with always being on a diet or off a diet, if you struggle with, you do really well, something always happens and you wind up back to where you started. If you struggle just in general with this, we probably have an identity issue, because the crazy thing, and Nick will get into it, is your identity will not go down without a fight. And this is why if our identity stays the same and we get great results, it's no wonder something magical seems to happen and we wind up back to where we started, or like I always say, like helicopter tailspin out of control. It's because of the identity. So my thing is, instead of just working harder to hope to God that doesn't happen again, why don't we just change our identity so that unconscious behavior just stops happening? Or if it does happen, we're ready for it. Because Nick hit me up, and Nick, I was talking to Nick about coming back on the show, and he has been working on this piece of content. He calls it the 6 stages of identity, and how to go about changing your identity and shifting it from a tactical and tangible place. Because one of the things that I get kind of is like one of my pet peeves that I really hate is so much of this deeper conceptual stuff in the world of inner work and weight loss. It's not tactical and tangible. It's like the concept of like, oh, be more mindful. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean? Or, oh, just do better or work harder or, eat better. And it's like, what does that even mean? Like, fix this or do that. And it's not tactical or tangible enough, versus I want this philosophically tactical, where you can walk away and go, that's my takeaway. That's what I'm going to do differently. That's what I'm going to deploy against. So that's what Nick is going to get into in his 6 stages of identity, to show you how to change your identity, shift it completely, and then get results better than you've ever gotten in your life. So that's what's on the table. I'm going to shut up now and get to the interview with Nick, and I hope you get a lot out of this, and I'll talk to you soon. Man, we're live. What's up, man? How are you?
What's going on? Thanks for having me back. I had a great experience last time and was excited when you asked me to come back on.
Bro, like that was the thing, is I don't know if I've had a more like reached out to me episode. And I've got like, I'm rolling, I think around 240. I'm not sure where this one will land, but around 240 right now at the time of recording. And I still get people, they're like, oh my gosh, that episode with Nick Ross, like talking about like identity and all the deep stuff. And like, I mean, the podcast is called Dieting from the Inside Out. So it's all about getting deep on like, it's like James Allen's quote from As a Man Thinketh, like you can't go within and live without, you know what I mean? And then I'm more excited than ever, because when you said, hey, I want to get into more of like the work you're doing on identity. And I'm like, okay, well, like when can we do this? So I'm really excited to get into that. But for people who don't know who you are, that like, let's say they didn't listen to the episode, give a little bit of a rundown, like who Nick Ross is.
Yeah, currently who I am, I'm about to turn 39 here in a couple of weeks, November 2nd. Go Team Scorpio. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I was in the music industry for a long time. Throughout my 20s, I really kind of lived this rock and roll lifestyle as a single bachelor guy. I moved all over the country: Hollywood, Vegas, Indianapolis, Nashville, Cincinnati, and Dallas, right? I was all over the place. And I lived a really unhealthy lifestyle. Like I drank all the time. I smoked a pack of cigarettes because I grew up in the 80s and everyone smoked cigarettes back then, and my parents did. So I developed that habit when I was 16. And I loved the music industry, but it like took a toll on my body, and the stress and the constant, I moved like every 18 months to a new place for my job. And excuse me, that amount of stress really helped. I didn't realize it then, and everything that was going to happen afterwards. But all of those stress and some of these negative things that I'm telling you happened in my life actually turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because 7 years ago, at the age of 32, what really transformed me into the person I am now, and by the way, this was a long road, was a diagnosis with cancer at the age of 32. I had stage 2 cancer attached to my lymphatic system. The tumors, the cancer cells that were in the tumor were really deadly cells. And so I was nuked with the heaviest amount of chemo a person my age could go through, and through my current health at the age of 32. And that whole entire process, pushing through limits and false beliefs that I had always put on myself, that I had always constrained myself to, because of this false identity and false narrative that I always had to run to soothe pain, to soothe the things of my traumatic past, to soothe the things that didn't happen to me, that needed to happen to me in my childhood. I resorted to drugs and alcohol and partying, eating, whatever the hell I wanted to, and I didn't take care of myself, and I didn't learn how to cope healthily with stress. You self-medicate, as people like to say. And I woke up, age of 32, found a tumor, called the doctor. This is the short form of the story. And less than 24 hours later was told, you have cancer, you have surgery on Monday. And at this point in my life, I hadn't really amounted to anything. I was like 32. I was a general manager of a brick and mortar retail store. I had accomplished a few things, but like all of those dusties were, all of those combining words there, all of those trophies were dusty, right?
Yeah.
Like they were a long time ago. And I had no real evidence criteria of really any kind of accomplishments in my life. And so here I am at the age of 32, basically having an episode in my life that you'd have in like your 80s or 90s if you live that long, and you're kind of like on your deathbed. So here I am is at the age of 32, and like it's all running by, man. Like all of the regret and all of the things I didn't do and all of the fears that I had. Like, man, you say you don't live and have regrets. Let me tell you, you do. You just have pushed them so far down, you haven't thought about them in a long time. But when you're faced with the probability of Nick, you're going to go through the worst chemotherapy that we could put a 32-year-old man through. But after that, there's a 50% chance that the cancer comes back. And because it's in my lymphatic system, it was attached to that. That's a highway system to my organs. So now when it comes back, now it's stage 3, stage 4, because it's spread. And if that happens, one, there's a 50% chance that that's going to happen. And then if that happens, you have less than a 10% survival rate. That's how serious this cancer is. And so, I lived through that every day for a year. And then you have 5 more years of CAT scans and blood work. And like, man, I have white glove fever. Is that what they call it? Like not fever, but like syndrome.
White coat syndrome.
Like I hate going to the hospital and doctors, and just even calling the insurance company is enough to drive me up the wall. And so just really all of those things, my childhood was just like a lot of people, we had things that did happen to us and didn't happen to us that shape and mold us who we are. And we grow up and we learn these soothing tactics, whatever your thing is, playing video games, gambling, workaholic, binge eating, under eating, sport, whatever it is, we all have these soothing techniques. And basically I ran those frameworks. I ran that identity. I supported that identity and false beliefs in my life for so long, until it nearly killed me at an early age. And that whole entire situation really revolved around a term now I think is best used. It was like the final judgment. And like I was really having those deep philosophical thoughts as I was getting sick in the tub, because when I don't know why, but like when I'm really sick, I need water, like not to drink water, but to like be in like a shower. Like it just soothes me. Like put your brain in beta wave or something, like where you're relaxed. And so when I was really sick with chemo, I would just sit in the shower in my shitty apartment, and literally like 1 month, my water bill was like $550.
Holy shit.
Cause that's how much I would just sit there till like, and just these deep philosophical thoughts, man, like, why did you have so much fear? Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you take that opportunity? Because there was massive opportunities in my life when I lived in Hollywood, for sports growing up, that I didn't take the opportunity because I was afraid I was going to get judged. And judgment to me meant I'm not worthy. because my father wasn't around to unpack all of that and always said, hey, boy, I'll be there to pick you up. I'll be at practice. I'll be at the game, but he never showed up. And so all of those things, as I've learned, as I've got older, if I've done the trauma work, all of these is just manifestations of past associations that we had in our childhood that we have forgotten about, we've suppressed, we've depressed, or we just forgot. Like, we don't even remember, but it's still unhealed trauma. It's like, hey man, you broke your leg and you're still walking around a broken leg. You don't even know the leg's broken.
Yep. No, it's so true. And for those that are listening, if you guys want to hear like the long story of that with the like, that was the very consolidated version of Nick's story. We got into that really, really deep on the last episode when Nick was on the show. And then you get really deep in that stuff on some of your content as well. And we'll leave all that for the notes later. But my thing is, like, I still feel like whenever like I think of you, Nick, I one of the things that comes to mind first is like just the idea of identity work and really reinventing oneself. Because I feel like that's where everything stems from. I just like my own conversations I've had with people and clients like the past like 3 days, identity work has been the biggest thing. Like I was on a call today and a lady's like, I can't figure out why I can't get my shit together. I've been successful and then like always find a way back here. And she's meaning in terms of weight loss, but like this is anything. But I'm like, it's just screaming. It's because your identity, your own mental thermostat is regulating you unconsciously. But that's why I'm really intrigued to hear kind of like some of the stuff you've been working on. I think whenever you and I were texting the other day, because you have like what you call like the 6 stages of changing your identity. Is that what?
Yes.
So I'd love to hear kind of where you're coming from with that, but also your opinion on like the frame of like why identity work is so important. Because I feel like, especially in terms of the outcome someone's looking for, weight loss, financial success, whatever the thing is, when we get talking about this stuff, it's like, okay, I get that, but give me the tactics. And it's like, we want to glance over this because it's airy-fairy, or it's not like the thing they want right now, but like to frame it, like for you, why is identity work so important? And then we can get into the 6 stages.
Yeah, there's just like you, I'm a sales coach, right? And so people get on my calls of one-on-one sales coaching, and I was getting the same types of questions like, I don't know what I really want. I don't know who I really am. I thought I was with this one person, but these great positive things happened in my life, but it made me feel opposite than what I had predicted. And there was an error versus what I thought was going to happen, what did happen in reality. And that element of surprise misaligns with people's identity. And that can be very confusing. That misalignment of thoughts, words, and actions is so dangerous in life. It creates a multiplicity of self, of personalities. Like, it's not a personality disorder. It's like you have these multiple voices that are contending for space and a dialogue in your head, and you have to serve multiple masters. That's insanity to me, right? And so why this became so important to me, and by the way, like, there's nothing special about me. Like, come from a poor farming family in Northeast Pennsylvania. I was raised on a horse farm and shoveled horse shit my whole entire life. Like, I was not born with a silver spoon. My other side of the family, like trailer parks everywhere. Like, I grew up from poverty. I grew up from a place where you're not supposed to make it out. I come from a place where drugs are so rampant and opiates and fentanyl, like all of those things, like you don't make it out. It's just a poor old like mining and community town, industrial type area. And so my point to this is like, there's nothing separating you from me. Like, I don't wear an S on my chest. Jared doesn't wear an S on his chest. Like, that we're not superhuman beings. Anyone is capable of this. And I want to pre-frame everything that we're talking about by stating that first. You are enough. You are capable. The problem is that you are supporting an identity. You are allowing an identity to live that does not support your true outcomes. And so the easiest way for me to explain this is like, I used to be a party animal, alcoholic, binge eating type of person, right? That identity that I supported for so long with false beliefs of all kinds of internal false beliefs, external false beliefs, everything that I could blame to keep that identity alive. Because by the way, your identity doesn't want to die.
Right.
It doesn't want to die. It's going to defend itself, and it's very smart. This is it, the talking, the dialogue, and the self-talk tracks. This is why words are so powerful. And what happens is that we get frustrated. We can't figure out, one, what we want, because this identity only wants to live and to support its cause. But two, we don't know who we are, and we don't know what we want. And that creates a very serious problem. And so I like deep philosophical questions. They're just like, I like puzzles. You get like raveled and you can think about them for a lifetime and like breaking down these questions. And when I was first recovered from chemotherapy, I wanted to take care of my body. That led me to nutrition. Once I got my body healthy and I was proud of what I saw in the mirror, the neurotransmitters, the chemistry in my brain started changing. And I started seeing life differently. So now I had cardio. Well, I don't like listening to music so much during cardio. Depending on what I'm doing, I like to listen to a podcast. So now I'm acquiring knowledge on self-development. And like all of these things spiraled out of control because I just started to pay attention to what I was putting into my mouth, because what I put in here affects what goes on in my brain. Like that's rule number one. So this is how I kind of went down this whole last 7 years of my life to come up with these concepts, these 6 stages of identity change. I'm borrowing bits and concepts from other people, applying them into how it worked for me. And, there's no proven science behind this. Just execute the plan and it's going to work, right? And so what we want to be able to do is shed the old identity, right? We have to allow that identity to die. So the first step to changing our lives, to changing our outcomes, to getting to our core desires, nothing else works if you do not have step number 1 understood. That none of anything else that I'm going to tell you today is going to work unless you have faith. You have to have the faith that you can do it. And Bob Proctor, I heard him talk about this. It was beautifully explained. As human beings, we live simultaneously on 3 planes of understanding. We are spiritual creatures with intellectual minds that live in a physical reality. And what most people don't pay attention to is they only pay attention to the exterior, the physical body living in this physical world on earth. That's all they pay attention to. And they neglect the intellectual mind, so acquiring knowledge and getting smarter. You can only have such a high IQ, right? That IQ can only be so high to solve high level problems and tasks, but you can be smarter by acquiring knowledge. So there's that aspect. We know we have to take care of our body, do some cardio, do some weight resistance training, and take care of our vessel as well. But the thing that most people neglect is the spiritual side of who they are. See, you are so much more expansive than you are actually giving yourself credit for. You're not just this physical thing. You're a mind, you're a spirit. And those things need to be nourished as well as the body. So rule 1 is you have to have faith that you can do this, most importantly. But realize you have to understand that most people don't want to move forward because they are spiritually broken and they don't even realize it. And how do you become spiritually broken? Conditioning for failure. Trying something and failing over and over and over again. We see this in the diet world, in the restrictive diet world, right? And people that go 2-3 days to the gym every day and not getting results because just doing too much. So we have to really, you have to have a conversation with yourself. And this is step 2. Like, Nick, how did you get the confidence that you could beat cancer and chemotherapy? Like, the only option in my head at that time was, you will beat this. That was it. That could be the only conversation that I could have. And when I realized I could have it at the highest level, like life and death, that damn, dude, just apply this to everything once you get better. Like, what's the difference? Mm-hmm. There is no difference. So in order to have faith, man, I remember some of the most powerful conversations in my life. where, when I was living paycheck to paycheck and I was trying to figure out how I was going to even pay for these medical bills. I had insurance, but still tens of thousands of dollars. And I'm already living paycheck to paycheck and like my hair's gone. And some of the most powerful conversations I ever had in that shitty ass apartment that I lived in was with myself in the mirror. And that's the second step, right? You have to, what I call metaphorically on my podcast, Circle the W, you have to let the dead wood burn. And you have to have a real, truthful, and honest conversation with yourself in the mirror. Like the black pits of your eye, like you look yourself in the mirror and you say, this is what I am no longer willing to tolerate from you anymore. Enough is enough. I can't wake up every single day and live this identity any longer. It's costing me my health, my stress. It's affecting my family and my coworkers. It's making me less enjoyable. It's making me bitter. It's making me resentful. It's making me nihilistic. And that is a pathway to hell. That is hell on earth, people. So you have to allow the dead wood to burn. The dead wood is all the bits and pieces inside of you that are not worthy of your highest identity, your highest self, what the universe, God, the collective consciousness designed you to be. And that anxiety and depression and guilt and shame that you feel is you knowing that you're turning the blind eye to the truth. You're willfully blind, meaning you know what you should have fixed and you know what you should fix, but you haven't fixed it. We've all felt this way. So why do we wake up the next day and allow that shit to continue? That is a hypocrisy. That is being a hypocrite. There's nothing on this world that is more confusing than a man and a woman that gives good advice and then sets a bad example. And you know what you should do, but you set a bad example in your life. And so those two rules fundamentally, one, have faith in yourself. And if there's spiritual trauma there, heal it. How do you heal it? By having a real honest conversation in the mirror about what you're capable of.
So good, dude. That's so fucking fire. And it's I remember, I know exactly where I was at when I first had that realization that like the old has to die. It's interesting. I was on a walk. It's super interesting. I was on a walk and I was struggling. I was at this like turning point with my life and my stuff. And I was at this turning point. I'm like, I was really struggling with like stepping into the version that I know I should be and the willful ignorance, or I'm sorry, the willful blindness and all of that stuff. And then, but I was struggling with this, like the identity stuff. Cause I'm like, I know I'm here. I know here's where I need to be, but I'm struggling with this. But then, the whole concept of the old self has to die. The old self has to die. But then I don't know if I just thought that was supposed to be easier, but then it just hit me out of nowhere. I'm like, death hurts. Death is supposed to suck. Death has grief. Death has all of these things. So I just need to embrace that and like let it suck. Death is not fun. It usually for most people hurts. There's lots of issues. So I just need to like lean into that so this new self can live.
Yeah. So you're going to have a room to get the reward that it needs. That identity has to be reinforced by reward, by winning, by actual, like getting actual vision of who it wants to be. And like who I say, like who you want to be. And there's things in NLP called like time dilation, like things that you can do to stretch or change the outcome frame or what you want over a period of time. Right. So a really easy exercise is to like really sit down in a quiet, isolated area and to do what's called mind storming. And I recommend this. We talk about this on my podcast quite a bit. Like after we have faith and we heal any spiritual trauma, we have a long, hard, truthful conversation with ourselves in the mirror. Then step 3 is that we have to get vision of what we want. Ooh, I love this one. Vision drives decision. Vision drives decision. Just like that's your mantra. Vision drives decision. If you do not have the results that you want in your life, well, draw it back. It's because you didn't take the actions that you needed to get the result. Well, what drives the actions? Decisions does. And so if you're not making the right decisions and you're not getting the right actions and you're getting an outcome that you don't want and a result that you don't want, it's because it ties back to lack of vision. That's what drives the decision-making ability to make good decisions, by the way.
Yeah.
Like having positive clarity of what you want. And so the mindstorming exercise, and we might have talked about this last time, but like you write down 20 goals down on a piece of paper. Like it has to be pen to paper, right? I'm a big believer in like the 4 agreements, and you must be impeccable with your words. And it's called spelling for a reason, because you're literally casting a spell, bringing thought form into the actual physical world, all of those things. But write them down and then prioritize them in the top 5 most important goals to get accomplished this year or the next 3 to 5 years, whatever time frame you want. Then this is what most people don't do. This is the secret sauce right here. Those other 15, you forget about them.
Yeah. They're a distraction, right?
They're distractions. Those are where there's like called the zone of like proximal progress, right? And it's like, I want to scale. I always want to scale like a hockey puck. I want to go from here to here, like right away. But it doesn't work like that. Like what happens with people is they get too far off path, like way off the hero's journey, so far gone that they end up taking a couple steps back instead of moving forward. And so in order for us to not get distracted, we got to get rid of those other 15 goals. And then the old rule is if you hit one of those top 5, hey, and I want to get the material thing. I want to get the Jordans, or I want to get the new Xbox, which was one of the 15 other goals, whatever it might be, then add it in there. Go get it. You deserved it because you knocked one of them off. But now we have clarity of what we want. Guys, because how can you, if you can't see the aim, you can't hit the target.
Yep. Absolutely.
How are you going to get there if you do not know how to get there? The 3 most fundamental questions that human beings want answered at all times are, where are we? Where have we been? And where are we going? Like, if you don't have those 3 things figured out in life, good luck.
Yeah. It blows me away, like especially from like the coaching business, right? Like we'll be on a call, someone applying for coaching, and I can't help you until I know where it is you're going. And so we ask, so where are we at now? Where are we trying to get to? What's the goals we're working with? And they go, I don't know, you tell me. And I'm like, hang on now. We're going to give you the roadmap. We're going to show you how to get from here to here. But like, I got to know where you want to go, because if we don't have that, if we don't know where we're going, but like it still blows me away how few people know what it is they want. And it's like, you can't get clarity. You can't get certainty. Then we all know the only way to do it is reverse engineer the game, but we can't even do that if we don't know what the fucking target is.
Yeah. And here's the real issue is that if you do not know what you want, how can anyone satisfy you?
Yeah.
And then if you don't know what you want, how can you satisfy yourself? See, this is the misalignment. When you wake up in the morning, you're driving that fucking job you hate, and you're like, God, I got to like clock in and ask for a vacation and all these things. It's like, you don't identify with wanting to do that. So why do you continue to do those things? Because it's easier to. It's an easier narrative for someone to just the Groundhog's Day effect of the mundane life that we live, instead of actually trying to aspire to our highest possibility, our best self. Because a lot of us, we want to do everything because of our family, our loved ones, our significant other, or our kids. Like that's most people's driving force, right? And like, if you truly love them, then you have to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I want the best for my kids. I never heard a parent not say that.
Right.
I don't want the best for my children. I've never heard any parent say that. So if you want the best for your children, which is what most people here on earth have because of that situations your parents had you, right? It's like, then you have to be the best version of yourself. And so I always ask people this question, like, what? It's a simple question. People don't have an answer for it. What better else do you have to do in your life than be your best self? Think about what I'm saying. What better else do you have to do with your time than to be your best self? So the question is, how do I become my best self? I get a vision of it.
Yep.
And all right, so now We know that, Nick. Duh, you're supposed to write your goals out, bro. Like, that's huge. Okay. All right. Now, here's what everyone's missing. This is why people fall short on the doorstep of that opportunity. Like, they give up and they don't even realize, man, you were just there. You're so close. And so this comes back to our emotional driver, right? I mentioned it earlier. And we have to find our purpose. Now, your purpose isn't your goal. Like, that is a target, that is an outcome, that is a result. There will be a reward system and a reinforcement of that identity when you get closer and closer and closer to that, right? But you have to figure out what is going to fill my tank. What is going to get me there? And I like to think it like a vehicle. Like, this is your emotional fuel. Like, what is filling up your cup daily? Because if it's about you and it's selfishly like, I want to hit all of these goals so I can make more money and buy more nice things. Like, I know not everyone is, as shallow as that. It's a silly example. But when you make the goals only about yourself, then you guys have already proven this in your life. You don't finish the job. So for me, bodybuilding, and I'm sure we talked about this last time too, but my mom is my emotional driver. Sounds corny coming from a 40-year-old guy, but hey, I'm a single child. My mom, when she was 18, loved me unconditionally. I want to keep a promise I made to her when I was an 8-year child. That's my big emotional driver. I have huge emotional drivers professionally, like team-based goals. If we hit these metrics and these numbers, then we get to do these things together. And that's my emotional driver. So when I don't want to do the things required to hit the goal, like do the cardio, get up at 3-4 o'clock in the morning when I'm in prep for 6 months in a row, do cardio twice a day, all of the things in this bodybuilding example, I think about looking my mom in the eye, who was through 2 motorcycle accidents, who both of her legs are reconstructed, who's broken her back twice, who's crawled her way on her hands and knees from acres out on a horse field because she broke her back and crawled to the house to get to the phone to call the ambulance. Like, no, Nick, you get to wake up today and look mom in the eye and say, hey, mom, I'm tapping out today. I just can't get it done. Wow, my mom gets older year by year by year. That accelerates my desire to make sure that I get to my destination and I am my best self. So you have to, what is your emotional driver? For most people, it's easy to figure out. It's the people who you love. Like accomplishing those goals. And we forgot to mention this, like you have those top 5 goals. Next to those goals, you write the name of the individual who is going to impact when you hit that goal.
Oh, that's good.
Right? And you don't write mom and dad, you write their full name. Jennifer Baker, Sarah Garner, Ray Ross. How is it going to affect their life, man? And then tell me on the hard days you don't have enough. Tell me that. Like at least try and tell me. One of the craziest, and it hits me in my core. It was so beautiful when he told me this. My buddy Hunter, who's a sprinter, he was like a power lifter turned sprinter, which is like oxymoronic. Okay. Like super crazy. All right. And he sprints all the time and he sells life insurance. So he's got to get up super early to go to the track to just do dead sprints at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And he's got to wake up early and he's a highly successful sales guy as well. And he has a problem getting up early. But when he was a kid, when he was like 2 or 3 years old, his dad died of brain cancer.
Wow.
And so what he did is he's got this alarm. Like, I'm a little lazy. I hope she doesn't go off. You say her name and she can turn on and off things in your house for you. Siri, right? Or those devices. And you're like, hey, turn the alarm off. And it's all the way across the room. And you don't get up on the first alarm and you slept in again. Well, he doesn't do that shit. He has an old school alarm that you got to get up out of bed and then whack on the thing for the alarm to stop going off. And it's not near his bed. So he's got to get up and get to it. It's the only way to turn it off. And on the top of the alarm clock in silver Sharpie is written his dad's name.
Oh, wow. That's so good.
And his reason for getting up on fucking time is because he realizes my dad didn't get to wake up today. but I do.
That gave me chills, bro. That's so good.
It hit me to my core too, man, because, and I put my grandmother passed away about this time, actually like 6-7 months ago. And I got a great picture of her, and that's now behind right by my alarm clock. So like I took a little bit from Hunter. It hit me profoundly.
Yeah.
But just like when it's about other people, and that gets into, this emotional driver, and it might get a little heady here. So follow along. Like there's many schools of thought on self-development, self-management, self-organization. And like this spans back to like Socrates, and like you can go all the way back damn to like ancient societies that were trying and talking about, moving up the levels of consciousness, right? Up into the third eye and the crown chakras, etc. And there's a lot of schools of thoughts on what is the best way to self-development. And this is my own opinion, but this is also a shared opinion by a lot of psychologists and people helping people through difficult, painful problems. And I don't believe that self-actualization is the fastest path to self-development. And what that means is like, you got to figure out every single bit and piece of yourself and discover who you are and move up the spiritual ladder of consciousness, which is, I believe, what we all should be doing. But I don't believe that's the fastest way to do that. And I find that there's not enough emotional drive. There's not enough to fill up the cup when it's only you trying to figure out you for your own selfish gains to a degree. So what I really truly believe in is a communitarian approach to self-development. Okay? And then you're saying, Nick, why? Well, one, dopamine, and we know we're in this pandemic of dopamine addiction right now. Like dopamine's like the reward system, like, hey, keep doing that. That's a good idea. And it helps like reinforce behaviors, but it also reinforces bad behaviors. And so there's a lot of dopamine hits when you're like constantly focusing on yourself and get to self-actualization. And that's actually the fuel. The dopamine's the fuel. But the other neurotransmitter that's much more powerful than that is serotonin. And serotonin is a reward and pleasure system built into the mind that gets you hits. You get doses of it when you help other people, when you serve other people. And pound for pound, serotonin is going to move you forward longer and feel better and more rewarding than dopamine itself. And also, what is interesting is that the levels of serotonin that people have is also relevant to where their social status is in life.
Interesting.
This is why people really low on the dominance or competence hierarchies of life, people clinging on to the edges of life, they're also filled with depression and negative thought because they're low in serotonin levels and they feel their perception is low on the social status ladder. And so it's very difficult in those positions to move forward, to see the light, to be optimistic, because chemically they're not getting the proper chemicals needed. And then like, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the pharmaceutical industry that literally is making the drugs to inhibit these things and make the situations worse in people, but that's a whole nother situation. So my point to this is, what is a communitarian approach? It means, what are you willing to sacrifice in your life in the service of other people? Because think about it, guys, like, I don't know if you know this, there's like 21 different species of hominids that were living simultaneously on Earth. Do you guys know that now?
I had no idea.
21 discovered 21 different species of hominid lived simultaneously on Earth.
Wow.
Crazy. And so when you think about Homo sapiens, us, like the reason why we prevailed out of those other 21, God knows how many other types of human species there were, the reasons why Homo sapiens worked is because we could tribe together. And those tribes were made because of that serotonin. It feels good when I give you some lumber for your fur, or my vegetables for your meat. And now we join together, and that's how villages became towns and cities and countries and nations and empires. That's how we got here today. And so what I'm here to tell you, again, this goes back to your emotional driver. If you keep falling short of your goals and your results, it's because you're not doing it in the service of other people. So how can you take your skill sets and your gifts that God and the universe and the collective consciousness gave you, and how can you use those to serve other people? Me, I talk a lot. So that's one of my skill sets. Why does Nick talk a lot? Well, because Nick was brought up in the 80s when parents told kids are meant to be seen and not heard.
Yep.
And that's what I was taught growing up. So guess what? As soon as I got to school, I was the class clown, talking as much as possible. And now that gift I've served, I go on podcasts, I do motivational speaking, I coach people with my gift to be able to talk. Right? And so we all have these gifts which come from our trauma and our damage, right? Like I'm a highly I'm highly emotional intelligent. Like I'm very aware of emotional states. And like, why is that? Well, because my parents, I never knew what condition my parents were coming home in. Were they drunk or this? Like my father, you have to figure out and feel those situations as a young kid. Like, is he angry? Is he going to be happy? Is he going to be, mean? Like, what state is he going to be in? And so once again, that's one of my gifts that I use to serve people, but it came from a very negative environment situation if I allowed my identity to perceive it that way.
Yep. You have very high levels of emotional acuity. It's like, I think I love people who have that. Like, it's funny, after being around so many people with high levels of emotional acuity, going around people who don't, it's like, this is really weird.
Yeah. It's like watching really highly IQ intelligent. So really high IQ people usually lack EQ, emotional intelligence. So like the genius in the room is usually like the socially awkward person. Right? So and then you have people that have it both. And then those are the people that go and really change the world. So
totally. It's insane, man. That's, I had no idea about the specifics about serotonin being around others. I had no idea about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And it's more fascinating. This example is used, and I love this example. Like, let's say a man's walking down, he's got a backpack and he's walking down a street in New York City, and some folders and some books fall out of his backpack, but he doesn't realize it and he keeps walking forward. But the person behind him were like, oh my God, this guy's important documents just fell out of his backpack. And he scurries up to the guy and he's like, hey, sir, you dropped your stuff. Here's your stuff. All right. Well, the laws at play here state, and what they've studied is the person who was helped is now more likely to go on and help another person within the next 24 hours, like a kind act, because a kind act was done to them.
Right.
But the more amazing part to this story is that people who witnessed the kind act happen are now also more likely to go out and do a kind act to another stranger.
That's awesome.
It, like, you've heard this so many times. Like,
that's so wholesome. Like,
yes, and it's true. But I've never heard a person everyone I talk to, I've interviewed a lot of people in my life. I've interviewed for jobs, probably thousands of people. And every single interview, people always said, I really like helping people. Like, unless you're a psychopath and you're like narcissistic jerk, like, you like helping people.
Yeah.
So like, what you realize is, like, you want to lose weight, you want to get into school, you want to level up in life. Like, do those things, and I want you to accomplish them, but don't do it for yourself. Make the motivation about something bigger than yourself. And that becomes your mission. That's when true identity changes. Because you have baseline. There's something about my environment that I want to change, that I don't like about my identity. Well, the first step up the hierarchy is you have to change your behaviors. But most people never feel capable of changing their behavior, so they just get stuck in that failure loop. All right. But you hire a good coach or a mentor, or you get someone that can help you along the way. Then they instill values and beliefs in you. Your identity changes and you go on to serve your mission. Like that, if you look at actually 12 steps from AA, it's exactly that. They go in, well, I want to change something about my environment, right? I want to stop drinking. I'm an alcoholic, but I can't because my behaviors say when 5 o'clock comes on Friday, I got to go buy a 24 pack and drink the thing as fast as possible. Right. And so I wake up the next day, I don't feel capable of changing my behavior. So I stay an alcoholic until I get to the next step, which is I get taught a framework, like a good coach will teach you to lose weight and get healthy. a systemized process that gets you a consistent result. That's what the 12 steps are. This 12 steps is a 12-step framework used to change the identity of the alcoholic. Now the alcoholic because of the values and the belief systems installed at AA and in the 12 steps, those wins in your personality add up, they stack, you change your identity, and now the alcoholic becomes a sober person. Now, what does every single person that goes through AA want to do when they become sober? They want to help other alcoholics.
Yep.
That becomes their mission. That is what we're all trying to do. Not become alcoholics and go to AA. By the way, if you need to, go because it obviously works. But you could apply that to any example in your life.
Right.
You want to lose weight, but you can't because you don't have the behaviors, because you come home and you binge eat and you wake up, you don't feel capable. So you couldn't change your behavior. So we go back down the ladder and you stay stuck. Well, you go and you hire someone, a coach, a mentor that can instill the values and the beliefs and the frameworks. So you start to feel capable. So you then change your behaviors, and now you change your identity. And then what happens, ladies and gentlemen, because this is what happened to me, is when I lost the weight and I got healthy because I hired a nutrition coach, my friends and my family, and I get emotional because I'm fucking proud of this. They asked me for help. And that was the first time that anyone had ever asked me for help. Now, I'm not a nutrition coach. I don't help people. I'll answer your questions. I know enough about it. But I want that feeling for you in every regard in your life. Like, you leveled up the business. You leveled up the marriage. Like, I just congratulated my old boss. They're married for 37 years. Like, hashtag fucking relationship.
Right. That's awesome.
You know, that is a leveling up. Like, that takes so much work. Like, whatever you're leveling up, like, I want to ask Debbie and Clay, like teach a class. It's like, how'd you guys do that? Like, and just, there's so many things. It's not just, we talk about nutrition because that's our passion, but it's literally any regard in your life.
Sure. But it's also like, I think I first heard this from Ed Milet when he talked about the one thing that you struggled with was what qualified you to help those other people now, right? Like the person who was an alcoholic got sober and they're like, my mission is to help other people just like I was. But being the alcoholic is what qualified you to now go help people because you know what it's like, you know what it is, you've been there. Same thing for me. What got me into coaching was like, I struggled, overcame that struggle. Now I want to help other people. It's the same thing, man. Like it's the one thing though, I think where people miss that the struggle is what qualifies you.
Yeah, I heard this saying, I think on Ed Milet as well, which was you're most qualified to help the person you used to be.
100%.
I love that. And that's called the plight of the broken. Like, we all want to fix in others which was once broken in ourselves. We all want to give others what we were lacking as children, if you really want to drill down to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? All right, so let me finish this up because I love to talk.
I love
it. We got 2 more steps here. So we understand that we have to have faith, right? We have to have faith. We have to fix any spiritual pain. And then we have to have an honest conversation in the mirror. Like, let the dead wood burn, get to the truth. Vision drives decision. So once we do that, we need to get the aim. We need to get the target. We need to figure out the result that we want. Now, we just spent a lot of time talking about purpose. That's the big step that most people miss. That emotional driver, that communitarian approach to self-development will move you faster or forward faster than any other way. I promise you. And then step 5 is, I love this. This is a very Tony Robbins thing as well, but MAP, it stands for Massive Action Plan, right? Because we have the result, we have the clarity, we have the P, the purpose, right? Our emotional driver. But now we need the MAP. I was telling some clients this the other day. I'm definitely aging myself when I say this. I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania. Like, if you're from the Northeast, you go to Florida for vacation, right? And so back in the 80s and the 90s, and probably in the early 2000s as well, you had to go to the gas station and buy one of those like massive maps. You remember those things?
Yeah.
Like
the
really
huge ones,
giant road maps of the whole every state. And you had to get out the highlighter and you had to draw out on like, Route 80 all the way down the East Coast.
Yeah.
And like that, there was no GPS. Like, you had to get a map and map out your journey. Listen to me. If you don't know where you're headed, then how the hell are you going to get there? We got result. We got clarity. We got purpose now. We got the gas in the tank. We got the car fueled up. Now we need the last part. We need to create momentum, and that's our massive action plan. So your massive action plan is just like, we talk about this on Circle of W. This is the evidence criteria needed to know that we won the day. And these are just 5 steps, man. Just 5 simple steps. And I think you may do something like this with your clients as well. I know Chase does, Chase Smith, which is like just 5 wins. For me, when I started, a win was making my bed.
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Make my fucking bed every day. Get up, dude, and make your day in bed. You don't like to do it. It's the first thing. You're cranky, whatever. You're irritable. You're hangry. Make your day in bed.
Yep.
There's a win.
Yeah.
I had a really bad day. Guess what? My bed was made. It was a comfortable thing to get into, and I could go to bed. Right? And like, drink a gallon of water. Go on that walk. Do 15 minutes of reading. Listen to 30 minutes of a podcast. Like, some way, shape, or form, that's always been my revolving around my 5. But all of those things, if I do those things, it helps me, 1, get to that bodybuilding goal. Because it's not just going to the gym, guys. It's not that simple. Like, mentally, spiritually develop to get to that level. It makes me a better entrepreneur, business partner, and better coach, and a better sales director. It makes me a better boyfriend and a father figure. Like, it helps all of those goals, and it helps the serving of those people as well. And guys, like, we know, like, we go to bed at night. Sometimes we're like, God, was it a productive day? Did I win? I'm exhausted. Because like, let's not confuse hard work for like output of work. That is not the same thing. You can work really hard and not get much done.
Not efficient.
Or you can work efficiently and get a bunch done. But like, at the end of a day, whatever it was, like, sometimes we're just like, all of those thoughts and those emotions are going through our head of like, was it worth it? Did I do enough? Could I have been better? And all of the lack of that evidence creates that internal dialogue that unravels people at the end of night. Like me, I look over at my calendar, I got my 5 steps, check, 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 check. And I go over, my day's done. Like, even if I got those 5 things done in the first 3 hours, then great.
Mm-hmm.
Go downtown Nashville, go boot scooting and go have some fun. You won the day. Right?
There you go.
Won the day. And now I don't have to feel guilty. That's the best part. Because I know I did the shit that I needed to do. And it's what it does is the compound pounding effect. Those wins stacked daily over time allow you for a massive withdrawal on personal development in the future. And so, before I give you the last point, which is the simplest one, I just want to make these, I just want to touch on this last point. Because this was like a really deep philosophical question that was proposed to me on some things I've been reading. And I didn't have an answer for it. And I'm not a type of guy that doesn't like to not have an answer, if you could tell.
I feel that.
And man, it hit me. One is the threat of an innocent death is not enough for the redemption of oneself. You're going to die one day. Everyone listening to this is going to die one day. I don't know, and we don't know when, obviously. But the threat of that innocent death, like, because none of us think we're going to die in a fiery car crash or some horrible death. We think we're all going to die of old age. Every one of us do.
Yeah.
And the threat of that innocent death, of dying of old age, even though it's the final error that you can have, death, it's not enough for you to change your fucking life.
It's so true, though.
You have to walk through hell first. You have to. And every mythological story ever told across every religion, including Jesus Christ, he died on the cross and then had to go to hell first before he was resurrected. Think about that story for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And it's told across all major religions, that same metaphorical story. So you're going to have to make the decision. You're going to have to do the hard things. You're going to have the hard conversations. You're going to have to do the things you don't like. You're going to have to allow the dead wood to burn. That burning, that fire that you feel inside is okay. Allow it to burn. Allow it to hurt. Because guys, we all hate when the forest burns down. It looks terrible, but that forest grows back better than ever with more diversity of life.
Yeah.
You can only rise from the ashes. So you have to go through hell first. Like, you might think it's bad now, but it's going to be a lot worse if you don't make a change in the future, right? And the second point is this, and then I'll shut the heck up. This one I'm still fighting with this one. What is the greatest possible sacrifice that you can make in your life for the greatest possible potential? What I've realized, the highly successful people that just continue, you know them, they're just successful every area in their life. You look at them like, how do they accomplish that? How do they do that? Sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Every time that you want to move up to that next level in life, you want to climb up that rung of life, the sacrifices get greater. You want to be a millionaire? You want to make more money? You're going to have to make more sacrifices.
Yeah.
You want to be in better shape? You want to be in the best health of your life? You want to look amazing, booty butt naked again? You're going to have to make some serious sacrifices. The people that you admire in your life, the only thing that is separating you from them is what they are willing to sacrifice and what you are not willing to sacrifice. And that leads me to the last step, step number 6, which is you have to choose to win today. Now, I love a good conspiracy theory. I'll binge watch Ancient Aliens until all night long.
Oh man, let's go.
But one thing that I do know is that none of us have time traveled. None of us have ever traveled back in time to yesterday. And damn well sure know that none of us, to our knowledge anyways, has traveled to tomorrow. Like, think about this. This is so simple, this sentence. You have only ever lived today. Mm-hmm. That's it. So just choose, guys. Choose, because I promise you, and I mean this from my heart, you can make a decision to go to sleep tonight and wake up someone else tomorrow, the person who you want to be.
Yep.
You can make that decision right here, right now. It starts with having a faith, and it starts with having a real conversation in the mirror. You're going to have to figure out what the hell you want and get crystal clear of that result. You're going to have to figure out that emotional driver so you show up on the door of opportunity. You're going to have absolute certainty of your map, your massive action plan. And lastly, you just have to choose to do it today.
Fuck, man. That was so good. I don't know how you packed all that into under an hour. That's holy fuck, bro. That's crazy. That was so good. There's so much, like, I thought I knew a lot about identity, but there's stuff like I want to go back and listen to this again. Like, that was so good.
Thank you. It's just something that I am incredibly passionate about discovering still to myself, just figuring out about myself on a daily basis. And all of that stuff, like, the deepest times I think are 1 in the shower, 2 when I'm driving, and 3 when I'm doing cardio. Like, I ask a lot of like hard questions of myself. And if I don't have an answer for it, I feel like a hypocrite. And I had to ask myself this, like, literally 2 days ago. I go, Nick, why is hypocritical people bother you so much? Why, Nick, does it bother you so much when you think you're being hypocritical? And like, I refuse my hardest to not be hypocritical.
Sure.
And I think it really stems down to the fact of like my father saying, hey, I'll be there for you, boy. And he never was.
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense.
And it's like, if you really want to trigger me, be a hypocrite. And if I really want to trigger myself, I'll start accusing myself of being one.
Totally get that. Let me ask you this, and we'll wrap up with this. This is something in my own identity work I've struggled with. And I've never really heard someone ask this question, but this is something that I've struggled with in the world of identity, where how do you balance all right, I'm changing my identity to this over here, but my results are still back here, because we know it goes identity, then your results catch up to the identity, right? Because we get sabotaged when it's the other way around. When our results are out in front of our identity, then it sabotages. So how does one balance, all right, I'm going to shift my identity and keeping my identity over here where it should be in the highest potential version, but my life, I'm living with the results that are not at that potential because the time hasn't caught up yet, so to speak. How does one balance that juggling act?
Yeah, results are always a lagging indicator, like in business. So in like your business, you make a bunch of changes, you corrected fulfillment systems, processes, you made the product better, right? And then the sales come.
Right.
Like, we've done all this work this quarter, but sales are down. Well, the sales are coming. It's just a lagging indicator. And it's the same thing with personal development. Like you're your own business, right? You see, like you're in business you're in the fantasy business. That's what really humans do, is like we just create fantasies all day long. And then we try to predict them hopefully happening in the real world environment. So the easiest way to understand this is you have to, once again, have faith that I'm doing the right thing. And that's intention. You can only measure that in your intention in your heart, right? And 2 is if you're going to quit, by the way, you are only allowed to quit to do something harder. That's it.
I love that.
You're not allowed to quit to do something easier. Like it's got to be incrementally harder, right? And then the other thing is this, because this has been true 100% of the time in my life. I never got what I wanted. When I did all this stuff, I've never gotten what I've wanted. I've always gotten something so much greater than I could have ever expected. Because guys, by the way, I'm just some dumb human being. What the hell do I know? What do I really know? Like, there's more I don't know, I don't even know about than what I do know. Like, I don't know shit. And so I expected outcome that these things would happen, but I went to go get my pro card. I never expected to see my dad for the first time in 22 years. I never expected me pursuing my bodybuilding dream would finally allow my fucking father to show up to my first competition ever. Because he never showed up to practice. He never showed up to the game. But this year, I saw him as an adult for the first time in 22 years. I never expected that to happen as a result of my identity changing. And by the way, my identity has changed, guys, but I don't have the pro card yet. I've been fighting for it for 3 years. Talk about a lagging indicator.
Sure.
But I got something better than that pro card could possibly ever be, which is finally meeting my father as an adult male. Right? And so that's the type of thing that I'm talking about.
I love
like,
that.
I wanted a job of significance. I hated my previous job because I was just embarrassed about it. I'd done it for so long and I was at the end of a dead end road and I wanted a better job. So I worked on myself. Like, I'm going to get better at communicating. I'm going to become a better leader. I'm going to use the opportunities that this job I do have to get the best meetings that I could. Right. And then I did all that work. Someone discovered me, finally gave me the opportunity, the job I always wanted, but not did I know when I took that job that it would give me something more than I ever wanted, which was an opportunity for public speaking. I didn't know that would come from that, but it was this beautiful experience. And once again, lagging indicators, guys, you have to have faith, but I promise you, baby, when the reward and you get there, it's going to be so much better than you could have ever imagined. So just hold on.
Almost a level of like letting go of expectations a little bit. Because if you were so tied to that, you'd have missed out on all this cool stuff.
Yes. And that's, we can talk about the reticular activating system and all kinds of fun stuff, but yeah, that happens for a reason too.
Oh yeah. I love it. Fuck, man. That's so good. That's one of the best responses I've ever heard, like to that kind of question, but that's so good. I love that. So
thanks, brother. I've enjoyed it.
Where can people find you at, man? This has been so fucking good. This has been so good. Where can people find more of you? I'll put it all in the show notes, but where can people find you from here?
The two places I create the most content on are Instagram and TikTok, like a lot of people. But that's at Nick Ross Speaks. Just at Nick Ross Speaks. All one word. You'll find me on those platforms. And if you would like to check out the podcast where we talk about these massive action plans, how to implement these things in your life, that's at Circle the W. So like circle the win on the calendar, but circle the W.
I love it. Fucking A, dude. I appreciate the fuck out of you, man. Thank you again for doing this so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I absolutely love this as well. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to talking here shortly, brother.
All right, guys, that is it for today's episode of the podcast. I know if you stuck around this long, you got a lot out of the show. And in this episode, be sure, guys, Nick loves this community. Nick, it talks about, he messaged me the other day, or I'm sorry. Well, yeah, we were just talking about this the other day, and he messaged me and he mentioned like how great you guys are, how fantastic of a community we have here in the Fat Loss Simplified group, in the client base, and here on the podcast. So if you got this far and this really meant a lot to you, I want you to reach out to Nick. Tell Nick that what you appreciated most, what you got most out of this. Nick loves hearing that, and he took time out of his day to do this for you guys. So be sure and shoot him a message and say thank you, or tell him what you got out of it, or that you listened to today's episode. If you have not already, be sure and subscribe to the show. I don't want you missing out on any of these episodes. And I got some heavy fucking hitters coming for you guys. I'm doing some crazy shit right now with the podcast, and I have some really, really cool guests lined up that are going to change your life and shift your entire perspective on everything. So you're not going to want to miss out on this, on any of this. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue tied. Now, before you go, a couple pieces of housekeeping. Number one is, don't forget the show is on YouTube now. So especially with these guest interviews, I know for me, I like to watch my interviews, not just listen to them. So if you want to actually watch the exchange of Nick and I and all this stuff with any of my guests, go to YouTube, because all of that is on there. I'm telling you, don't sleep on my YouTube. It's pretty great with these, with the production of all of these episodes and these interviews. All right. So be sure and subscribe there. Number two, if you will, the one thing I ask of you is, I do this completely for free, and I'm giving you some of the best out there. The one thing I ask is for you to give me a great review wherever you're listening to this at, whether it's on iTunes, or if I don't think Spotify lets you do reviews yet. I know some of the other ones do. YouTube lets you do comments. So if you could give me a review wherever you're listening to this at, it would mean the world to me, a lot. And I read all of them. So I thank you in advance for that. Next, if you're just starting with the podcast and you're not quite sure where to get started in the world of like weight loss in general, and it's a little bit overwhelming and daunting, one of the best places to start is go through my completely free course. It's called the Fat Loss Checklist. I know going through this game of weight loss, there's a lot of diet culture everywhere, and there's a lot of overwhelm and misunderstandings and all this stuff. And if you're not quite sure where to get started and it's a little daunting, I have a completely free, I call it the Fat Loss Checklist, where you can go through. It's a 5-day email course, and I'm just going to walk you through the A to Z's of how to make this super simple and actually practical for you to get results as fast as you can in the most sustainable way possible. So you'll want to go through that. All these links are down in the description. Next, if you are not following me on my other socials, be sure and do that. That way you can get some good content in your quick feeds, like your Instagram reels, your TikToks, things like that. The other thing, if you are not part of my Fat Loss Simplified community, you are missing out on one of the best communities and home bases ever. That's how I view the community that we have. And it's right now I have it housed in my Fat Loss Simplified Facebook group. It is the best community in the world. If you are not part of that, you need a home base. Part of having success in this area of transformation in the inner game and weight loss and all the stuff you're here trying to learn about is you need a home base. It's so hard going through this game on your own. It's so hard going through this game without anyone supporting you or rooting for you. Because the truth is, you need somewhere you can go to get loved on, to get supported, to get the new information, to get your questions answered, and to get surrounded by a bunch of other people moving forward too. So much of the magic with success with this stuff is you just got to get around the right people and get in the right community. Community changes everything. So you'll want to go join the Fat Loss Simplified Facebook group. And I'm in there every day. My team's in there every day. And you've got about currently a little under 6,000 other people who are doing this with you. So you can get part of that and then succeed moving forward. It's the best thing ever. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, last but not least, if you're listening to this and you're like, I could really use some deeper level help. This is not for everyone, but the handful of people it's for, it's going to change everything. If you are sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, like, I feel like I need a little bit more help. I need a little bit more one-on-one support with identity, like Nick was talking about, with this fat loss stuff, with all of this craziness. Like you've been struggling for a while. You've been doing this on your own for years and it's still not been working very well. And you just want to get a little bit more guidance and tailored, individualized help. You want some more external accountability where someone is checking in on you and following up with you and giving you an exact prescription on what you should be doing, then coaching may be a better fit for you. Now, coaching is not for everyone. We don't accept just anyone with a credit card. You do have to apply for coaching, but my podcast listeners have a special place in my heart because I just know it takes a really special kind of person to even be here and making it this long through the episode. And all this kind of content is really deep and it shows me that you're really trying to change your situation. I doubt you're listening to this with having the quick fix mentality and all this other bullshit. So I really value that. So, and I like to reward that and action takers. So if you've made it this far, I actually have a special coaching offer for you. And it's only to people who listen to the podcast. I don't have this anywhere else, where basically if you listen to the podcast and you apply for coaching and get accepted into the program, then I have about $4,000 worth of free stuff for you if you get accepted. It's one of those things where before we ever can accept anyone to the coaching program, we have to make sure you're a culture fit. We have to make sure that we think you're a good fit for the program. And we actually have to make sure that we 100% know we can solve your problems and we're the right people for you. Then we want to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. We don't ever want to get someone signed up for coaching and get them plugged in and their expectations are off or they don't understand all of that. We want to be able to answer your questions and make sure that you feel good about this decision as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in or want to just learn more about, there's actually a calendar link in the description of this video where you can go straight to the front of the line where you can schedule a call with my team and we can double check all those boxes and make sure that you're good to go and see if this is a good fit and see if our options can work for you. But otherwise, that is it. I know that was a long-winded thing, but I always like to put that out there. Otherwise, I appreciate you being here. Thank you again. I love you. I will talk to you next week.